that what that cat there?
Must be full of reefer.
Full of reefers?
Yeah, man.
Mean that cat's high?
Sailing.
Sailing?
Lightly.
We now wander off the beaten path with an update from the Reefer Reporter.
Hello and welcome to the Reefer Reporters with News Hawks Kim Cooper and myself, Al Graham. We are your audio digest of the previous week's Canadian and international cannabis news. This week is for February the 6th through to the 12th, 2018. Well, Kim, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good this week, Al. Excited to get into all of the cannabis news that's been happening across the globe for the past 7 days. Been quite an exciting 2018 so far.
It sure has been. We're gonna travel not only here in Canada, but we're gonna go to Israel, Greece, the U.S. Who knows where else we're gonna go?
Yep, for sure. We're going to start off right here at home in Canada. And we're going to go into the laws that the feds are putting out versus what the provinces want done in their particular jurisdictions.
Yes, we're seeing a couple provinces don't want to be don't want to allow any home growing, which goes against the law.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of the flip side of the coin of what we're seeing down south of the border in the United States, where, states are fighting for rights to do stuff in their independent states. Here in Canada, with federal legalization coming up on the forefront, on the horizon, we're looking at the opposite, where provinces are trying to regulate how much people can have access to this plant under federal law in their particular provinces. Quebec and Manitoba are standing up against home growing, and the feds are saying, well, it's a federal law, so you can't really do that.
Yes, they're actually, that's what they're saying, and that's not how is it here? They say that they were permitted to personally cultivate no more than four plants. A lower limit may be set in provincial legislation that is consistent with federal objectives, keyword objectives, and allows for dual compliance with both the province and federal levels. So, it goes on to say, however, a complete provincial prohibition on personal cultivation could be seen as frustrating the federal objective and thus deemed inoperable. So in other words, if the federal objective is to eliminate the black market by rejecting home growing, that isn't going to help eliminate the black market.
That's right. Wilson Rayburn is trying to remind people that legalization is the framework allowing Canadians to grow cannabis in their homes under federal jurisdictions. And they're saying provinces cannot trump that jurisdiction. Yeah,
exactly. Even they've Solomon Israel, he's got a real good article on it, the legal battle for the provinces, and he talked to Kirk Tusaw, and he says where he thinks he believes there's a possible charter case here, because the province's attempts to impose some kind of penal sanction where there's a fine or possible jail time on somebody who is growing recreational cannabis who is in compliance with the federal law. And they can't, provincial law doesn't override federal law.
Well, it definitely shouldn't, but province of Quebec doesn't really see it that way. They're taking the stand that they are ready to take the feds to court over this and to assert their right as an independent province and create their own laws and their own framework. So this is going to be an evolving situation for provinces such as Quebec and Manitoba and any others that choose this stand.
Exactly. Well, Kirk goes on inside this article. He goes on and says Section 7 Charter Challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it'll be
once
interesting.
Again, back to court.
Yeah, and yet again, Kirk in this article goes back to the Allard case, where if the government turns around, or municipality or province, province argues that, concerns about safety and health concerns and fires and all that, it was proven in the Allard case that, their expert witnesses were found to be not so expert.
Yeah. Absolutely. Kurt is quoted in here saying, there's all kinds of things that fall under this new law, and it's a new thing. It's a brave new world of cannabis regulation, and there's going to be a lot of constitutional law to be made on various questions coming with the new legal regime in this country.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just for our listeners, we're still hearing the click. We're working on it. We're trying. We just haven't solved the problem.
Yeah. We're working on it. We really are.
We thought we had it beat. Okay. Let's see. Where are we going to now? We've been to Quebec. We've been to Manitoba. Let's make our way out to British Columbia.
Yeah, sounds good. Looking at BC and their new recreational regime has been put forth in BC. New minimum purchasing age is going to be 19, and they're going to be working with existing vendors that are in the community now.
Yeah, public and privately run locations.
Yeah, great news for many of the people that have licenses in places like the city of Vancouver that is currently issuing licenses to dispensaries for a fee. So now they have the opportunity to come into the legal regime.
Yes, which is something that all provinces should be right across Canada, right across the country. It's here in Ontario, everything will be done through with the LCB and LCBO and with the whatever it's called, the ORCA or whatever it is. This looks like it's got a similar thing where all the wholesale distribution will be handled through the liquor distribution board, but it allows private stores. So basically, we had Judith on there the other day on the Pace Radio show, and it almost looks like people will have to purchase for these stores from the licensed producers here and the micro cultivators as well.
Absolutely. I mean, there are issues with BC's plan. Every plan, no plan is perfect in any province, anywhere. There are some issues. People are concerned with the types of products that are going to be available. Are they only going to be LP products, which means, all of the medications that many patients across the country are used to getting from these types of establishments will no longer be available. So that is an issue for patients. And in this article, there's Berinder Rossiter, CEO of National Institute for Cannabis and Health and Education, said that she's encouraged by the government's plan so far, but added the province has a difficult path ahead. There's precedent-setting dispensaries are happening in the municipality of Vancouver right now because they do supply patients with balanced access, and the courts have mandated that balanced access must be provided under the ruling. So, with the changes, it won't be with its issues.
Well, like you say, issues. We just had a happy person, and now we do have one person who's not too happy, and that's your friend and mine, of Dana Larson of Sensible BC. He says that he thinks it's going to add another layer of bureaucracy and cost to everything. He also says that cannabis is already regulated by Health Canada federally, so the province shouldn't have to be looking into quality control end of things, and that he's upset that they won't allow direct sales from retailers to customers. So basically, a micro business setting up a retail store in the front of their production facility.
Absolutely. And he's correct. I mean, these places are already existing in cities like Vancouver. And BC's plan, while it is progressive and one of the better ones that we have in the country, like I said, it's not without its flaws and problems. And many of the existing businesses and existing patients that use and frequent those businesses to get their medication for illness are going to be left out in the cold and encounter some definite issues.
Yeah. They're going to have to do some changes. I think all of them across the country, all the provincial ones, will require changes as things go along. That's for sure.
You know, there are on the flip side many that are welcoming the changes, and that takes us into a joint story that is combined with this. And another friends of the shows, our friends Doug and Michelle Sikora from S&M Sweet Shops were in the paper and the Coast Reporter regarding the same situation. And they're quite happy with the model that's being put forth, and they're hoping that they'll be able to incorporate their current business into the new legal regime as well.
Now, I know that they do, you know, they're a sweet shop, right? So they got they got a lot of goodies there. Being that provincially yet or even federally yet, edibles aren't, you know, covered yet. So are they looking down the road is what they're looking at, maybe?
Yeah, they're looking down the road. They're looking at working with the mayor of Gibson where they are, and they're answering a lot of questions about municipality control, and they're working with their municipal government. So they're educating their municipal government, who is open to the idea of, allowing this as a profitable business for their community and a service for the community. So they're working with, it's good to see the community spirit working there, like a business that is existing, working well on the municipal level, and a municipal government that's open to learning and being educated by a business that's existing right now.
Yeah, which is good. And it's good to see Michelle and Doug here on the front page of the paper. It's always good to see some past guests on the Pace Radio Show in the news, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, Kim, we got about 3 minutes till we get down to our music break. So let's maybe take a trip across the big pond.
Yeah, we're going to go all the way over to Israel. Israel's been all in the news quite a bit in the cannabis community with all of the education, the research, and the study that they do there. They're into exporting their products and exporting the knowledge that they're gaining from these products, but that's coming to a bit of a grinding halt across the border for the U.S.
Yes, I see that Donald Trump has told them that no, do not send your medicinal cannabis to our country. He doesn't seem to want it. So they put it on hold. They're not going to ship it over here.
Yeah, Netanyahu has told his ministers that it would be wise not to be the vanguard in this field, noting that Canada is the only country that has authorized the exports of cannabis to date. So they're putting a halt on all exports of medically approved cannabis to the United States for United States patients.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, I've been hearing about Canada shipping stuff. Now we're seeing Israel shipping. This is just becoming a regular commodity to be traded amongst the countries.
Absolutely. And, Canada was subject to a bit of a halt there last week as well, but ours was through the stock market. Companies were being questioned on whether or not they were anti-trade on the stock market if they had ties to companies in the United States. So this is an ongoing thing for people across the globe, and it seems that the United States is the sticking point for everyone.
Well, yeah, and Israel's finance minister, he was saying how much of a benefit it was going to be to their economy and everything in order to be able to ship it abroad. But they can still ship it to other countries. You just can't ship it to the U.S. I guess they're looking at maybe at that as being their big a big purchaser of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they have approximately 50 medical marijuana companies that work in cultivating the plants and producing delivery, such as inhalers and, skin creams and products and that sort of nature. And that's what they ship out. So these products will no longer be welcome in the U.S. and shipping will be ceased.
Yes, yeah. Like it's too bad. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, sure. Donald, look at you done. You're making your patients suffer more. That's for sure. Okay, yep. Kim. Why don't we take a very quick music break, and we can start stuff again on the other side.
Sounds good, Al.
All right, we're going to do that break. It's featuring a song about homegrowing. Obviously our first article is about homegrowing, so this is about homegrowing as well. We'll see you on the other side.
Homegrown's all right with me. Homegrown is the way it should be. Homegrown is a good thing. Blind that bell and let it ring.
Okay, Kim, we're back from our music break. Got to hear a little bit of Gus there and his homegrown. So, where are we going now?
Now we're going to head off to Canadian forces make the news in Canadian cannabis community news. Story out this week from CTV News on Canadian forces are seeking pot impairment goggles. Have you seen this?
Yes, I seen this, and I'm sorry, but I had to laugh. Like, I have. Have you ever tried the ones for alcohol?
I have not. I've heard lots about them. I've spoken to people that have tried them, but I have not personally tried them.
I don't know. I don't know how they could simulate somebody who's like if I've consumed like 6 joints in a row, I would never feel like the goggles.
No, well, I mean, to me, I would compare it, I guess, equate it to wearing anybody's heavy prescription glasses that aren't for you. You're going to feel funny. You'll feel lightheaded. You'll see not correctly. Obviously, things will become askew or blurred or what have you. I mean, that's not what happens when you consume cannabis.
No, exactly. And the government's put out a tender. They're looking to buy these things. They want to purchase 26 kits that they can use these things for. And I don't know if they've got any responses yet. But you got until the end of April.
I mean, the whole thing is just ridiculous to me. I've tried the glasses that my kids had them at Halloween to make their eyes look like, a spider or a fly or whatever. And they would make your vision impaired, and they would make, triple vision and stuff like that. You would see like a kaleidoscope sort of a thing. Everybody winds up in a kaleidoscope. So, I mean, I've tried those for novelty, and I imagine they're very similar to that. And I'm sorry, but vision impairment is not part of cannabis consumption.
No.
That's not the effect that you get when you become impaired on cannabis. If you're impaired on cannabis, you're sleepy, you're slow, your reflexes are slow, you want to lay down, you want to relax, whatever. That's cannabis impairment. It has nothing to do with your vision.
No, yeah. They say here the purpose of the they call it marijuana simulation kits is to raise awareness of marijuana impairment, reduce risk of marijuana impairment, and promote healthy lifestyles within the Canadian Armed Forces. I can just wait to see these things come out. This is going to be interesting.
How does it promote a healthy lifestyle?
I don't know. This is going to be interesting. I can hardly wait to see them when they're released.
It's hilarious. It's
Yeah.
hilarious. It's another joke for the Canadian forces, boys. I mean, really.
And if they work effectively in the armed forces, then they'll be handed out to the public, right? Here, put these on.
I have nothing else to comment.
All right, well, let's go from one part of the government to another part of the government.
Yeah.
And that is our senators, which is not a laughing matter because the senators, all laws have to go through the Senate. And we're having a bit of a bogged down issue here with the cannabis new law coming through.
Yeah, senators are saying July 1st. Yeah, well, that's doubtful at this point. I mean, even if everything goes to royal assent and goes through on course, now people are government of members of government are saying it's going to take 8 to 12 weeks before the market for recreational cannabis officially opens after the vote takes place.
Correct. Yeah, you're looking at up to basically 3 months. So if it becomes legal in, let's say, July the 15th, you're looking at what, middle of October?
Yeah.
August, September, middle of October before you get actually legally possess. Before it becomes completely legal, right?
Yeah,
Under the new
that's
law.
right.
Yeah. So
And
even
many-
though it's
many
legal in
senators
writing, it doesn't mean it's still going to be legal for the public until 3 months afterwards.
That's right. And many senators have spoken out and said, they want to speak at this reading in second stage, and they plan on speaking to the bill and speaking to the Senate before going through, which doesn't happen very often on bills that are going through the Senate. They're not discussed on a regular basis by a lot of senators, but this one has a lot of people want some input.
Yeah, and some people are accusing them of, stretching it out and that. But if we got to hear more of those silly poems as we heard when it was in the House, and hear them in the Senate, that is a waste of money, obviously, waste of time.
It's a waste of time. It's a waste of everybody's money. But at the same time, we have to respect our political process that we have in place. I mean, that's why it's there. And if this does get dragged on, then I think it's going to lead to many challenges in the future, because there are many big players that are heavily invested in the launch of this.
Yeah. Well, the conservatives in the Senate say they're not going to be obstructionists, but I can see how they can slow things down. Yeah. They say up to 20 conservative senators want to speak about this, but none of them have spoken. Yeah, but none of them have spoken so far. So I don't know if they have time allocation where the federal government can say, okay, we've got so much time left to debate this, and we're going to move on. They can force that on the issue, and then the conservatives will turn around and say, hey, you didn't allow us to speak. Everybody still wants to speak. So, yeah, politics. Isn't it a fun game?
It is. MP Claude Kerrigan was quoted in saying, that he would be, it's impossible to have this done by May 1st. At this point of finishing by the end of June may be a real challenge, according to him. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with our senators.
Yeah. Or, you can write your senators, tell them to put the boots to the pedal, and let's get her done. People are going to jail. People are being fined. People are suffering because of a law that is obviously no good, and we need to move on, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The people have spoken.
Yeah, and we need to improve that as we go along. Okay, now let's head back across. Let's jump on the plane and head across the big pond again. Let's head over to Greece.
Yeah, all the way over Europe. We're going to stop in on Greece for a few minutes. An article coming out of Leafly magazine. Cash-strapped Greece sees growth in medical cannabis. I guess the Greeks are looking at this as a possible cash crop.
Yes, they are. They're looking at adding a bunch of money to their tills. As we know, Greece has had lots of money issues over the years, and this would be one way to add some to their bank account and probably pay off some of their debt.
Yeah, they've had medical cannabis use production for about a year now, and they sorely rely on imports at this time. So they're looking at growing that, and they're looking at growing their growing network for production.
Well, this year they're hoping that the domestic production and processing could attract investments of basically almost $2 billion in the first 3 years.
Yeah, so big money coming, looking at Greece right now with legalization there of medical cannabis. They're looking at this as a possible economic boom for the country for some much-needed cash.
Well, this is one of the draft legislation for these producers says the grower must be of age of 21 or over, have no drug-related convictions, and have an acre of land available. If that's all it is.
Yep, pretty reasonable, requirements, so they're basically looking for anybody and everybody that wants to get in on the bandwagon and grow and have this as a cash crop product for the country.
The one downer is that drug conviction. Somebody who's been busted for a couple of grams, they shouldn't be prevented from growing. Like you see some places, they're inviting those people to be involved in the growing.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm not familiar with Greece laws, so I'm not sure on how many people actually are convicted there. So that's something I would have to look up, I think, before I talk.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've gone from Greece. Let's head back here to our own province.
Yeah, fly back on the plane all the way back into Ontario.
And this could affect not only Ontario here, but it could affect countrywide, really.
Yeah, Alberta is in this story as well. We're talking about condos here and consuming cannabis if you live in a condominium. Apparently, some condominium boards are for 100% ban, and they believe that prohibition is the best answer to cannabis in condos, according to some legal experts. The story is coming out of the CBC News.
And the prohibition of cannabis, how successful has that been for the last 100 years? So successful that the government is eliminating it. So why would you want to turn around and put it into your building? People who live in condos, would they be required? Where would they go? They can't go. They can't consume in their condo. They can't consume in public. They can't consume in their parked car.
Yeah.
Where can they can't consume in a business? Where are they supposed to be able to consume the legal cannabis that the federal government allows them to use? Is that another charter challenge?
Absolutely. Everything is not all black and white. According to quote this article, the use of medical marijuana, cannabis, to treat medical conditions is on the rise as well and is only expected to increase. So an attempt by a condominium corporation to stop a resident from smoking could be challenged in court as well.
Oh, I would think so, especially with the medical end, preventing a patient from taking their medicine. That's courts don't like that.
No, they don't.
No.
Absolutely not. And I mean, when we're talking about cannabis and, the effect that it would have on your neighbor, the only effect that it's going to have on your neighbor is the smell. Now, if you're going to start banning smells in these condominiums, then you're going to have to start banning these toxic air fresheners that people use and sprays that they use, incense, curry food, strong smelling ethnic food of any type. I mean, how can you have a smell ban in a multi-dwelling unit?
Exactly. And yet that they raised the concern about fire hazards and mold, overtapping electrical systems, so on and so forth. But that leads you back to what Kirk was saying. That stuff was thrown out at the Allard case.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, that's all been proven propaganda and nonsensical.
People are growing 3 or 4 plants. People aren't doing hundreds of plants.
No. And how many people have house plants? I've gone into people's apartments that I know, friends of mine, and they're plant junkies. They have tropical plants throughout their house. Trees, in their front balcony windows and stuff. Enormous things, They cause mold too.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Your showers, you don't vent your bathroom properly, you got mold.
Yeah.
They don't ban bathrooms without vents.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
The whole thing. I see here in the article where the guy that was speaking on behalf of the condo stuff, he is recognizing that there could be a human rights claim because of the fact if they're shutting out medical consumers. But they said they would encourage them to consume edibles and oils.
You cannot dictate how somebody consumes their medication. That's between a patient and their doctor only.
That's right. Yeah. Well, Kim, I'd love to discuss more of this, but we've got to go for another music break. Yeah, You're going to hear some more of that homegrown song too. And then when we
Excellent.
come back, we'll get back into some more news. Going
Awesome.
south. I
Sounds
think we're
good.
going south next song.
Yes, we are.
All right. Talk to you shortly. See you after the break.
Sun comes up in the morning, shines that light around. One day, without no warning, things start jumping up from the ground. Well, homegrown's alright with me. Homegrown is the way it should be. Homegrown is a good thing.
Okay, Kim. We are back from our music break, learning about some homegrown and how important it is.
Yeah.
And we are going to head down to the U.S.
Yes, we're going to head into Colorado, one of the United States' most infamous or famous, depending on your point of view, states for legalizing marijuana, and they're in the news once again.
Yes, and this is a perfect thing to sort of go our previous story before the music break. We're talking about condos and people not being allowed to consume in the condo. And this article here, it happens to do with the fact that in the city of Colorado, or since Colorado has legalized cannabis, that in Aspen, they are selling more cannabis than they are selling alcohol.
Yes, licensed vendors in ski resorts in Aspen raked in $11.3 million in income from cannabis last year, compared to only $10.5 million in licensed for alcohol.
Yes, that's the first time they say that it's happened in the USA. That's happened. First shop there opened up in March of 2014, and as we saw, things just sort of grew. And they say that the Aspen cannabis sales grew 16% last year, which is huge. And they're looking at it to keep growing.
Yeah, adjusting attitudes are making big changes out there. Some people just don't drink. They don't want to hit the slopes and drink, and they want to consume something different while they're relaxing by the fire. So this is available now, something different from alcohol. And it's botanical, it's natural, and you have a judgment-free environment to enjoy your cannabis consuming.
That's exactly. It's also like a tourist bonus. People know if they can consume cannabis at Aspen and ski, they may be more apt to go there than some other place. And they say that it is different from alcohol. Alcohol eventually leads to poison. Marijuana, cannabis, it's just a plant. No one's dying from it.
That's right. Study done by Georgia State University last year found alcohol sales have tumbled 15% in U.S. states where medical marijuana has been legalized.
Yeah, and counties where cannabis has been legally obtained has seen a 20% lower alcohol sales. And you got to think that the ski hills got to be safer overall.
Yep. Absolutely.
You don't have as many people who are maybe impaired by alcohol up on the ski hills running into others.
That's right. And, across the board, things are getting better. Police are being called out less for disturbances, all this kind of stuff. So across the board, we're seeing good things in Colorado.
Yes. And talking about alcohol and cannabis, I see here our next story here talks about cannabis beer will be available here in the country soon.
Yeah, Canada's beer brand is going to be cannabis infused. Province Brands is bringing cannabis beer to Canada.
Yes, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Now, is this the same group that bought a 10% stake in Canopy Growth?
I'm not 100% positive on that. I have to look that up. I'm not really sure.
It doesn't appear to be. It doesn't appear to be. So there. Now what's that now? 2?
That's 2 of them. Yeah.
That's 2 of them now. Yeah. Cannabis beer. Well, there's already a hemp beer that's out there, right?
Yeah, there's hemp beer, but this is going to be the first one that'll actually be infused with some THC. So it'll be non-alcoholic. There won't be any alcohol in it whatsoever. It'll be a drink with THC. Now we do have pops and soft drink available, beverages available out there that are THC and distillate infused, currently. So for those that are more, apt towards the beer flavor, I guess this is an option.
Yeah, it's an option. I'm just quickly running through here. I see that, Jeff Sessions has made, lots of threats about the cannabis, stuff down there in the U.S., so it sort of makes sense for a U.S. company to come up here.
Well, many of the U.S. companies are migrating to Canada because of federally legal cannabis coming to this country, and I think we're going to see a larger influx of that happening more and more as 2018 goes along.
And as we saw recently, Jeff Sessions has said that he believes that the opioid epidemic that is going across the North America, it started with cannabis and other drugs. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, well, the man is just backwards. He's on a completely different page than the majority of the rest of the country, and people are migrating north because of that.
Yeah, they are. Did they? I'm just looking here. Do they make gluten-free beer?
That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Gluten-free beer. I know a company that makes some gluten-free cookies.
Well, here actually, just right here, they claim right here. This is the company Province Brands. They claim the products are low in calories, low in sugar, and very important to today's customers, gluten-free.
There we go. So they are gluten-free, a gluten-free THC cannabis-infused beer coming to an establishment near you, possibly as soon as 2019.
Yeah, they filed the patent 6 months ago.
Yes,
Yeah,
and they hope to be in production by
interesting.
2019.
All right, let's slide into our last story, and this one I think it's just cute.
It's fantastic. It's just fantastic. We're gonna talk about some cookies and a nice young lady that is very enterprising young girl with a very good keen mind for business.
Yes, and these cookies are not even medibles. These are just regular cookies. There's no THC in them or CBD or anything. But this young lady, she sold 300 boxes in 6 hours of Girl Guide cookies. And she managed to do that because she did it out in front of a cannabis dispensary.
Yeah. Now, there was a story on this a couple of years ago about another enterprising young lady that did something similar. And the Girl Scouts of America came out and banned these young ladies from setting up shop in front of any dispensaries, liquor store, or other adult-type establishment. So this young lady took it upon herself to wiggle around the rules a little bit and make them work for her, rather than setting up shop and putting up a nice little kiosk, which would be against the rules. She strolled up and down the street with her little wagon full of cookies.
Exactly. She was able to do that. Yeah, the dispensary is not an approved site, but if she keeps moving, she's not setting up a booth. She's found a way around their rules.
That's right. So she got her wagon and she strolled up and down this 1 block radius where there was a dispensary there, and people were coming out of the dispensary and lounge after consuming and said, hey, cookies, I'll take some of those. And she sold 300 boxes.
Yes, exactly. Now, I see here that the dispensary is totally open, completely agreed. They have no problem with the girls selling their cookies out front of their storefront, and they have no problem with becoming a place that is approved.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the Girl Scouts of America does not feel the same way. So we'll have to see if they come out and do anything or release a statement regarding this young lady's innovative ways around the rules.
Like, I know around here we see people standing out in front of liquor stores, beer stores, and stuff, raising money. You know, the Legion does it for their poppies.
Yep.
Remembrance Day. I don't go to those stores. So, do Girl Guides and still sell cookies out in front of those places?
I've never seen one, I must say. I don't really tend to frequent liquor stores either. I'm not much of a drinker. But, I see them in the mall and whatnot. But I've never seen a Girl Scout person selling their cookies. But I do see the Cub Scouts doing all of their fundraising, like selling poppies and the Trillium in the spring for Ontario and that kind of thing. So the pins are always available.
Yes, yeah. So I don't know. I say, hey, Girl Scouts, why not? There's nothing. Don't see anything wrong with it. I thought it was really cute. She had enough thought to how to go around the rules, still say legal, and make a whole bunch of money for her and her friends.
Absolutely.
For the Girl Scouts, yeah.
And she got the cookies out there, and that's the whole point, right? Get the cookies out there. And she accomplished that. So my hat's off to her. Good job.
Yes, I agree completely. Okay, Kim, I believe that's the end of it, right? Last article?
Yeah. That was the last one. We'll end it off with Girl Scout cookies. Good job. And then with that, I'm going to go and get some cookies.
You're going to go cookies. All right. Okay, that's our Reefer Report for February the 6th to the 12th, 2018. And in closing, we'd like to say thank you to our listeners and for listening and to our Cannabis News podcast. And if you enjoyed it, please share it with your friends. And for right now, we're going to go back to a little bit of music from Gus and some homegrown. See you next week.